Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter from Berkshire Paint and Sip, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting Snowy Mountain Gondola, and I'm sipping on some apricot vanilla tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you can find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you could certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, ultramarine blue, green oxide, Mars black, fire red, and burnt umber, which I like to call brown. And of course you can switch those colors up if you'd like, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have a standard number 2 pencil that I'll be using for some drawing. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a number 6 bright synthetic brush, and I have a number 3 round synthetic brush, and I will refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process. And of course you can switch those up as well if you'd like to. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I will be providing you with a couple of additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same size and type of the canvas to the same type of paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. So that's there. There's also a link where you could download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to be doing a basic outline for our landscape. I'm going to be using my pencil to do my drawing. You could certainly use any drawing utensil that you would like to do this. You could even use paint as your drawing utensil, but I'm going to opt to use a standard pencil for mine. I'm going to guide you through a series of markers or dots, and we're going to connect the dots. And by the time we're done, we'll have a nice simple landscape where we're sectioning out the sky to the distant mountains to the foreground land. I'm going to start with the line that's going to separate my mountains from my sky. So I'm on the right hand side. I'm going to find myself about halfway up or down my canvas. So for me, that's right about here. I'm going to go up from that about an inch, inch and a half, make myself a marker. Then I'm going to come on the left-hand side of my canvas, find myself about the halfway point, up or down, so mine's about right here. And then I'm going to go about halfway between that and the top of my canvas, somewhere in this vicinity. So this is going to give me about 1/4 of the way down on this side. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these 2 dots with my kind of my silhouette of my mountain range. Yours does not have to be exactly as mine. You can make yours as lumpy or bumpy as you want. What I'm going to do is just kind of sketch myself on a couple of roly-poly kind of mountain top tips. Maybe I'll drop it down a little bit in through here and then ride it along here with a couple of gentle kind of curvy lines in through there, and then maybe just bring it up in this direction. Again, yours doesn't have to be the same as mine. You can make yours whatever formation that you'd like. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate my mountain range from my foreground land. So I'm going to, on the right hand side, I'm going to come up about 3 to 4 inches, give myself a marker. And then on the left hand side, I'm going to go about half the distance between here and the bottom of my canvas. So for me, that's somewhere in this vicinity, or if this is halfway up or down your canvas, you can come down maybe about an inch to inch and a half. And then I'm going to connect these 2, but instead of having a lot of lumps and bumps like I did up there, I'm going to have it a little bit more smooth with a dip almost in the middle of my canvas. So I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to give myself just this kind of nice roly-poly dip down in through here. So this is about halfway in my canvas, and right now I'm about 2.5 inches away from the bottom of my canvas. That's about as low as I'm going to bring it. And then I'm going to bring this up in just a gentle kind of way and meet that marker in through there. And that's all I'm going to be doing for my outline. You can certainly make any adjustments that you'd like, and then we're going to use our large brush for the next step, so you can just get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be painting the base coat for our sky, our mountains, and our land. I'm going to be using my large brush to paint, but I'm going to be using my medium brush to pre-mix myself 2 custom colors. I'm going to be using blue and white to paint my sky, and then I'm going to be using black, green, and blue to paint my mountains, and then I'll be using black, brown, and white to paint my ground. My ground's going to be a custom gray, my land is going to be a custom dark greenish color, and my sky, we're just going to use the raw colors from the ultramarine blue and white. So I have pre-mixed myself my 2 custom colors. This is going to be my gray for my ground, and this will be for my mountains. I'll do my gray color first so you can see how I got to that. So this is the color I'm going for, just kind of a medium to light gray color. How I got to that was I used a little bit of brown, a touch of black, not a lot, just a touch of black, and a good amount of white. And then I just spun it together. Again, I'm just going for kind of a medium to light gray color. The brown helps me to get it more of a little on the warmer side, so it's not too cool. I'm going to be adding a lot of cool tones to the painting, so this will help to just give some good dimensional depth to my snow. So that looks pretty good to me. And then I'm going to wash my brush to create my custom mountain color. So I'm washing and drying my medium brush. My custom mountain color is right here. What this is, it's a nice dark kind of bluish green. How I got to that was I used a whole bunch of my green oxide, a little bit of blue, and just a touch of black. And when I say just a touch, I mean just a touch because it will go dark really, really quick on you. I'm putting blue in my green in order to make these mountains look a little bit farther away. So the blue will help to set the mountains back a little bit farther than the foreground trees that I'm going to be putting in a little while. So that's why I've got my blue inside my green in order to accomplish that. So then what I'm going to do, I'm putting my medium brush away. I'm going to take out my large brush and I'm going to start with my sky. My sky I'm going to have nice and dark up here in the top left-hand corner. So I'm picking up just ultramarine blue. And I'm going to be painting my sky with a circular type of brush stroke, so it ends up looking like I've got some clouds going through my sky. I just started with my ultramarine blue. I'm going to put a little extra darkness up in through here. I'm kind of letting myself almost run out of paint at this point, so when I go to pick up my white, I'll have a nice kind of gradient to work from. So now that I've got this on, I'm going to pick up a little bit of white paint on my dirty brush. So I didn't pick up any more blue, I just picked a little bit of my white paint. I'm going to bring this all the way down, and I'm actually hitting my pencil mark. So I know that with my paint, when I use this type of pencil, I can see my pencil through my paint. So I'm allowing or using that to my advantage. So as I do this step, I can bring that sky right down to my pencil mark, and it allows me to see my pencil, and I can see my guideline for until I need it to go away. So now I just keep on picking up white as I'm going over towards this right-hand side, and I want my right-hand side to be the lightest because I want it to look like my light source is coming from this right-hand side. So that's why I started on the left and I'm working my way towards the right. And I'm going to have this bottom right-hand corner the lightest. But before I go too light. I'm just kind of using my brush in a light swirling fashion to get these colors to blend in as much as I want them to. Now I just keep picking up my white paint in order to get this. I think I had a little bit of gray on my brush in through there. Hold on, let me just wipe this off so I can get that gray off there. My palette's a little dirty and I just picked up some gray paint unexpectedly. So just wipe that off. Now I'm picking up more clean white. I want this to be nice and bright, so that was a surprise to me. So then I just picked up a little bit more white and I'm getting this to be nice and bright over in this corner. It doesn't have to go all the way white, but I do want it to be the lightest area for the sky. So once I've got that on there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and then I'm going to paint my entire mountain range with that dark green color that we created. I'm going to be using a stippling effect or brush stroke. So I just loaded my brush with that dark green color, and I am going to be applying this for the entire mountain range in this dotting type of technique. I'm using this as a technique to apply the paint in this area because I want this mountain range to have lots of texture to it, not, you know, 100% like grass, so to speak, which is why I'm just using one color to do this. But because I am using this dotting technique to apply the paint, it's going to give me little pockets of light spots and dark spots, even because I am using the same color. It gives me the light and dark spots because some areas have thinner paint than others when I do this. So instead of the streaky, you know, brush marks like that, this is going to give me a softer appearance with a little bit of texture to it. So it works well for a nice background for this type of scenery that I'm using. As I get up towards the top, I'm going to just kind of lightly tap at the top here. I don't want the top to have too much texture to it, so I'm just kind of lightly going across where my pencil mark is because I want this to look off in the distance. And to me, when I look at the top of mountain ranges off in the distance, I don't typically see a lot of the, if I'm going for kind of snow-covered ones, I don't typically see a lot of the tall trees sticking up the fur if they're very far away. So I'm just going to emulate a nice kind of almost smooth type of top to this mountain range. But if you wanted to see the tippy tops of some distant evergreen trees, you could certainly pop up a couple of pointy little marks along that tree top or along the mountain top, and that'll give you that appearance. I do sense that I still have a little bit of paint from my sky within my bristles, so I'm getting a couple of additional light spots. I didn't wash my brush 100%, so if you see a couple of extra light spots as I'm going through here, that might be just because I have some of that lighter paint still within my bristles. If you watch me paint a lot, you'll get a sense that I really enjoy my colors talking together. So when I am transitioning from one area to the next, I don't often wash my brush 100%. I don't often, care if my colors intermingle with one another. I actually embrace those kind of things because I think it makes my paintings more natural looking and it feeds my painterly eye, so I just kind of roll with it a lot of times. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash and dry my brush, kind of, or as much as I can in my cup right now. Give it a good squeeze on my paper towel, and then I'm going to paint the land with my custom gray. I don't need to do any fancy brush stroke with this. I'm just going to be going left to right to create a coat of this gray color on this bottom area. I'm not looking for any texture right now. I'm just looking for a base for my snow that we can work on later. As I get towards where it's going to meet the green, I'm just going to kind of go loosely across. Some of my green is probably still wet. Again, I'm letting that happen. We're going to have a whole tree line that is going to separate the snow from the mountain range, so I'm all right with these two talking together. And then we are going to be using our medium brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this large brush away, take out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our mountain range. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors I'm going to use are blue, white, black, green, gray, and my dark green. So all my colors except for red and brown. I do recommend before you start this step that you make sure that your canvas is dry. So this is that time where you get to take an extra long break if you'd like to. Or you can find some kind of fun fanning method to get it dry, or you can do as I did and just whip out a blow dryer and get it dry that way. What I'm going to be doing is I'll be guiding you in through the mountain ridge tops where the mountain range kind of peaks in several different spots. You can make your peaks wherever you'd like to. I'm going to just do a series of maybe a half a dozen or so, but you could do more or less. It's up to you. I'm going to be using my light source, which is this area over here, to help guide me in telling the viewer how tall these peaks are. The light source will illuminate the right-hand side of each of these ridges. I'm going to start with a little bit of blue and gray on my brush at the same time. So the blue is going to help me make this look far in the distance, have a little snow on the tops of these peaks, and provide a good atmospheric dimension to it. So I'm going to start with my first one over off of this little mountaintop in through here. So I've just got my blue and my gray on my brush, and I'm just going to kind of bring down this curved type of line like this, and then I'm going to blend it out and down that right hand side. I'm going to pick up a little bit more blue so it has a little bit cooler of a snow feel to it. I'm going to just kind of use my brush in a sketcherly type of way, getting it to blend down into this greener area down below. So I'm almost like scrubbing it as I start to run out of paint, and that lets it kind of fade down into the rest of the hill. We'll be adding other stuff to the to it in a little bit. This is just going to get us started. I'm going to put another little one right in through here. I would say somewhere in through here, and they don't all have to be the same color. They don't all have to be the same texture. One can kind of come down a little bit more than the other one. If this one kind of goes across, maybe this one kind of drops down a little bit, and then I just allow this to kind of blend out into the rest of the land. This inside is going to be the dark side of that ridge. I can put a little bit of a ridge. So if this is going to be dark over here, I just picked up a little bit more blue. I'm going to put a little bit of the blue up in through here. So maybe this is being shadowed a little bit by here, but it's going to give it that blue that helps out. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more of my blue and gray. I'm going to put another big peak kind of coming in through here, like this, and then maybe this kind of scoots down. Maybe this is a big ridge line in through here, and I'm going to take it again. I'm picking up a little bit more blue, so again it adds to that texture of the snow, and then I'm just going to bring this down in through here. If you come to a point where it's not blending into your background enough, this is the time where you could pick up some of your background green. I didn't wash my brush. I just put that dark green on my brush to help with that blending process to get this to come down into the valley of the mountains. I'm going to pick up some more blue and gray to give myself another kind of peak in through here. And then this one, maybe we'll go a little bit more to the right of this one. This one, I kind of want there to be like a flat spot in my mountain range, as if there's maybe a ledge of sorts or maybe a field or something in that mountain range. So again, this is just kind of getting me to give myself almost like a roadmap of where I want each one of these hills, and then maybe just kind of let this blend out down towards the bottom. I think I'm going to put another little kind of light spot over in through here. And again, this is just going to give me my roadmap, picking more gray and blue up. I've got quite a few peaks up in through here. So I'm going to have one distinct one right up in through here. I'm going to have this one kind of maybe like a dual type of ridge in through here. And then I'm going to allow this to just kind of roll down the hill in through here, and then same thing up here. Just kind of get this to roll over on this right-hand side in through here. And your hills are going to end up a little bit different than mine. They don't, I mean, there's no two mountain ranges that are exactly alike, and this one is made up from my imagination. So you don't need to make yours the same as mine. This is just something that I felt was going to look nice for our gondola ride, so you can certainly fiddle with yours as much as you want. I'm going to put another kind of light spot in through here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of put the dark side on these ridges, and then I'll get it to blend in with the rest. So I'm going to pick up some of my dark green plus blue on my brush, and I'm going to just get these dark sides to blend in a little bit more. On the dark side of the ridge, I'm picking up a little bit more blue just to get that to kind of fall into the dark side or the back side of the hill. If you need to pick up more gray, feel free to do so. But really what I'm doing is just kind of softening the tip there and letting it fall into the dark side behind it. You can incorporate any additional light spots up at the top if you want there to be more accentuated areas. I'm going to pick up more of my dark green down in through here just to get this fully covered and to get it to make sure that it blends with the neighboring landscape. I'm going to pick up a little bit more dark blue or the ultramarine blue just to kind of get that in this area, and of course you can add additional blue wherever you want. I'm going to down in through here, I'm picking up my dark green again just to get those colors to have a second coat on them and make sure that everything talks together. I think I want like almost a dark ridge in through here. If my light source is over here, I feel like I want a dark side of a hill here. So this is where I'm going to pick up my dark green plus a little bit of black. Give myself almost this, as if this is the back side of a hill, and maybe that's a valley, and maybe this is just the backside of the peak of a hill. You can really have fun with kind of imagining these peaks and valleys to be whatever way you want. As I feel as they're getting closer to the viewer down and through here, I might have some darker spots. I might have some fog. So play with those values. Now that you've got everything kind of in place, I just picked up a little bit of gray and blue. Maybe this is a little bit of fog down in through here. And once I get it all on, what's going to happen is, well, first let me not lose my thought. I just picked up more of my dark green and blue to finish up this little area in through here. I am going to put some pops of bright white snow on the edges in a minute, but right now I'm just getting all of these areas to talk together. Maybe I want a little lighter spot in through here as if there's a bright valley. I picked up green oxide to give myself a little bit of a lighter area in through here, as if maybe there's a little bit of light shining down into this valley. So again, have fun with changing those tones to suit what is feeding your painterly eye. Just picked up a little bit of green, my dark green plus black in order to finish up this little guy in through here, similar to what I did over in through there. And right now I keep switching colors. I just picked up my dark green to get this to blend in. When I get down in through here, I know I don't need to do much because I've got a tree line that's going to be happening in a little bit that's going to steal the show from this area down in through here. So right now I'm just picking up my dark green to make sure I have a good second coat on in through here and that it blends in nice with this area that I put in through here. I'm going to put my bright snow on in a minute, but right now I'm still picking up my dark green plus a little bit of blue on my brush to get this area in through here. Again, oops, that was a lot of blue, but that's okay. There's going to be lots of trees in through here, and just finishing up this, and then I'm going to put my bright snow on in a second, which is going to be just white on my brush. So a little bit more blue I think I want on these back hills in through here. So just picking up a little bit more blue to get this back side of these ridges in through here to look like they're cooler and that they've got a little bit more of that blue hue to them. Now I'm picking up white paint and I'm going to pop on just these real bright, crisp little areas of snow at the top of these ridges. Again, yours doesn't have to be exactly as mine. I'm really just kind of tapping in this this color. It doesn't all have to be super duper white. So if you're going through this and you want one a little bit softer or darker than another, that's up to you. But the brightest I'm going to have on this right hand side, maybe a little bit on this ridge in through here. And again, this just helps to pop out those areas that you want the viewer to understand that there's a little bit of sunshine on there and the snow is glistening with that sunshine area. I'm going to pop some up in here on this top right hand side, maybe creep a little along the top of this of the mountain range up at the top, and I'm just kind of using the side of my brush and just kind of rubbing it in this kind of in most places little horizontal way, and then I'm going to let mine dry, and once it's dry I'm going to see if there's any additional areas that I want to fiddle with, which I'm sure there's going to be a couple little areas that I might want a touch brighter or maybe a little bit more snow on them or a little bit more blue on them. So I will let mine dry and then probably fiddle with it a little bit more, and then we're going to be using our large brush for the next step. So once you've got your mountain range complete and you've done as much little fiddling as you want, you can put this medium brush away, take out your large brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish the snow on the ground. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm going to use are white, my gray, and blue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it really light at the top. I'm going to give a little bit of a separation between this little hill and this hill, and then I'm going to get to go a little bit darker with a little bit of blue down at the bottom. I'm going to start with just white paint on my brush, and I'm going to be using just kind of a loose left to right type of brush stroke, getting this all the way up to the top. I want it to look nice and bright and fluffy up at the top. As I come into this area where these two hills kind of meet, I'm going to bring this across in this direction. I'm going to bring it maybe over till I'm about 3 or 4 inches from the edge of my canvas. I'm going to soften this up a little bit by just kind of blending it out, and then I'm going to put, and this is not a super straight line, I gave it a little bit of a bend. I'm going to pick up a little bit more white paint and do the same thing on this top hill in through here. So I'm starting at the top with my white paint. I'm going to give it just an uneven kind of edge to it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of blend it down. I just picked up a little bit more white paint so I can have a little bit thicker and brighter up here. But my goal is to be able to see the difference between these two areas in through here. So as I'm coming down here, I'm letting myself kind of run out of paint, and that's allowing for this visual separation between those two areas. I want it to kind of look like it's going downhill in through here, so I'm using a little bit of a directional brush stroke in this area in particular, just to give the viewer the understanding that that kind of goes downhill. And then I'm just going to kind of blend this out down here. I'm picking up just a little bit more white. I feel like I want this to go just a little bit brighter in through here before I start running out of paint. And then I'm just going to get this to naturally kind of blend in through here. So it's not just a stopping point. I just want those two to blend in nice and naturally in through there. Now I'm going to pick up white plus a little bit of my gray. So I have mostly white on my brush with a little bit of gray on the corner of it. And I'm just going to kind of get this bright white stuff up at the top to blend down into the grayer region down below. And then once I get down, or it starts to kind of work its way off of my brush as it is now. Now I'm going to pick up just gray paint to make sure it blends all the way down to the bottom. And on this left-hand side, I'm going to also put a touch of blue on my brush. So I'm going to pick up brown or gray plus a touch of blue on my brush to give myself a little bit of a coolness down at the bottom of this snow. You could certainly do it with a little bit of darker gray or a little bit of black, but this just kind of gives me that illusion of a little bit more coolness to that snow as it's kind of going off my canvas. And then we're going to be using the same brush for the next step, so you can wash it, make any little fiddling adjustments that you want to on your snow, and then you can wash and dry this large brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the base coat for our pine trees. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm going to use are black and green. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a whole tree line that's going to be on the other side of my snowy hill here. And then I'm going to have a couple of these pine trees that are going to be sitting in here and maybe a couple on this hill in through here. I'm going to start with the back trees in through here. I'm going to be using black and green on my brush at the same time. So what I'm going to do, because I'm going to be using it in a dotting type of way where I'm going to be wanting to get these kind of triangular type of tips, is when I load my brush, I'm going to be alternating between green and black. But what I do is I'm going to take my brush and I kind of squish it in my paint. And what that does is it takes my bristles and kind of brings them together. I'm going to put a little bit more, I'm going to put some black on my brush to start. So I have black and green on my brush and I have them kind of squished together. What I'm going to first do is I'm going to give myself kind of an outline at the top of this hill or the bottom of the mountain range, and I'm just going to go right along in through here. And if I bump into my snow, I'm okay with that. I can always come back and make any little adjustments that I want on the snow. I wanted to do the snow first because I'm putting some trees in here and I didn't want to have to paint around those trees. So that's why I opted to do that. I'm going to bring this in just a little bit in through here because I'm going to have a couple of trees popping up in through here. So I'm just going to bring this in through here. I'm reloading my brush to make sure that my bristles are flat the way that I want them to. And I'm going to do the same thing over on this side. Again, I'm just kind of giving myself a real dark outline at the top of this, of the white snow right now. And once I get this on here, I'm going to start making myself some pine trees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a whole bunch of pointy little marks. So they're all different heights. I can have some short ones, some tall ones. This first line of them that I'm going to do is only about maybe 2 or 3 inches tall. I'm going to have a couple taller ones in a minute, but this is going to just kind of get me started with the shorter ones that I want to have in place. As I'm going through this process, if I'm not getting tips as pointy as I want them to, I would definitely just kind of re-squish my brush in order to get some little pointy tips. But I don't need them to be perfect. I'm just really looking to have something that's representational of a pointy top. So even in the middle part and through here, you don't even need to have any pointy tops. You can really just kind of dot it along the way. It's just those little tiny tips at the top that you want to maybe pop in a couple of points. The last time I reloaded my brush, I picked up green, so that's why you're seeing some good evidence of the green right now. And of course, we're going to be having snow on these trees as well, so that's going to, add to the dimensional element of them. I think I'm going to have I'm just adding just a little bit more green in some of these little guys and through here, and that's looking pretty good. I don't really need to do much more to that. So then I know I want to have a couple in through here, but I don't necessarily want them taller than these ones. So really all I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of dot this whole area in through here with my green and black. When I put the snow on, I'll be able to get these trees that I'm doing right now to look like they're in front of those back ones. So really I'm just kind of coloring this in so we have this fun line in through here. And then I'm going to put a couple in through here. I'm reloading my brush with a little bit of black and green. I'm going to have a small one kind of over in through here, just kind of popping itself up. So the type of tree that I'm doing there, shape is traditionally kind of just like a triangular type of a shape. So that's all I'm looking to do right now, is create something that looks like a triangle. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I know that when I go to paint my snow on, I'll be able to do all kinds of adjustments to make the branches look like they stick out and stuff. But right now, just kind of looking to get myself something that looks like a triangular type of a shape. Again, just picking up a little bit of green and black. I want one somewhere in this vicinity, so I'm going to put this one maybe a little bit in through here. And again, I don't really care where the top is right now because I can't really see the difference of the top because of the trees behind it. But once we put that snow on there, you'll be able to see the difference. And then I'm going to have one that just kind of pops up over in through here. So I'm just going to have this one kind of somewhere in this vicinity. I'm going to put some black paint on my brush. I think I'm going to have this one kind of coming up in through here. And what this is going to do, this is just a little element that I want to have to speak to the dimensional or perspective aspect of it. So maybe this one tree is, you know, just on the other side of this hilltop. So again, it just kind of adds a couple of, you know, dimensional elements to the painting. And then we're going to be using our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put your large brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be painting the base coat for the gondola and the cable that it is attached to. I'm going to be using my small brush. The color that I'm going to be using is gray, the pre-mixed gray that we made for our snow. You could certainly draw this out if you'd like to. I'm just going to guide you through a series of markers that will connect, and we'll have something that's in the shape of a cable and a gondola by the time we're done. So as I go through this process, I will a lot of times have a touch of water on my brush with my gray paint, which is going to allow me to have long, continuous, smooth type of lines. What I like to do is I will dip my brush in my water so I have fluid within my bristles, and then pick up a tiny bit of my gray paint. You can even tap it off on your paper towel, whatever works for you. Just if you have the moisture within the bristles and the paint at the tip, it tends to allow you to get that line to be more fluid and long. You can always add, it might be a little transparent too because you have the fluid in your bristles, but it provides you with a cleaner line. You can certainly add a second layer if it's too transparent for you. So I'm going to put my cable on first, and then we'll build our gondola after that. I'm going to go up into the top left-hand corner in from the corner about an inch and make myself a marker. Then I'm going to go down in the bottom right-hand side of my canvas. I'm going to be about an inch above my land line. You could certainly have yours wherever you want to, but I feel that this will give a good perspective as the gondola is going down into the valley. And now I'm going to cross my fingers and I'm going to make a long continuous line to connect my two markers. This can be really straight if the cable is nice and tight, or it can have a little bit of a bend in it. So I have a feeling mine's going to have a little bit of a bend in it. So if yours does too, that's okay. I don't think it would make sense to have an upward bend, but definitely a downward bend. So I think I'm going to have my most success if I start down in through here and travel up. I like to keep my eye on the prize, so as I'm going through this, I'm going to keep my eye on my prize, which is the other marker. That will help to guide my hand in there. And I'm not going to push hard as I go through this process. So I'm going to start in through here and just going to kind of get my idea of where I want to go. I'm going right behind this tree here, apparently, and then I'm going to guide it right up into my mark up here, and if I run out of paint along the way, I'm okay. I can always just add more. Like right now, I'm gonna do another pass on it. I'm just reloading my brush, so this way on this pass I can kind of clean it up a little bit, maybe make it a little bit wider, get it kind of more clean looking. And of course, and if it's not straight, I'm okay with that. I'm just gonna let it happen the way it's supposed to happen. And you can make your cable thick, you can make it thinner. If yours does go, you know, way wrong and you're like, wow, that just wasn't the way that I wanted it to happen, you can certainly catch it with a little bit of water and a firm brush. You can lift that paint right off. If you do it pretty quickly, you can re-loosen that paint and get it to go and just make a correction with it. You can also, you know, do this with chalk or pencil or whatever works for you. We're going to be putting a highlight on it in a little bit in our final detail stage, so that will also help to kind of help to disguise any imperfections, because the light reflecting off of it can make it look imperfect anyway. So I'm all right with mine not being perfect. So that's what I'm going to do for the cable. And then what I'm going to do, and of course once it dries, I will probably fiddle with it a little bit to make it, you know, correct any super wonky spots, but I'm pretty happy with that. And then I'm going to put my cable car on, or my gondola passenger carrier car on. So I'm going to have mine, I want it to look like it's high up in the air, so I'm going to have it in this vicinity. You could certainly put yours down lower, you could make yours bigger or smaller than mine, but I'm going to have mine in through here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a basic shape for the back part of it. So I'm going to give myself like a little marker here and here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to travel down from that, I would say maybe about 3.5, 4 inches, and give myself a couple more little, yeah, that looks good. A couple little more markers right below that. And then I'm going to connect my dots with, so these two should be about as wide as those two. And then I'm going to connect it with kind of a curved arcing line, like that. I'll do the same thing on the other side. So again, I'm just using my gray paint with a little bit of water on my brush. Then I'm going to connect the bottom 2 markers with a horizontal line and the top 2 markers with a horizontal line. Now I'm going to give myself a couple of little like thicker areas on the bottom part in through here. I'm going to go up maybe about 1/4 of an inch, give myself a horizontal line, and then color this part in with my gray paint. And again, it doesn't have to be perfectly covered. This is just giving us a base coat for our structure in through here. I'm going to do the same thing up at the top. So I'm going to give this just a little bit of a thicker area up at the top, but maybe not as thick as the bottom. So I'm just going to kind of thicken this line just a little bit up in this top area. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the side of this structure on. So I'm going to give myself a diagonal line from this corner in through here, just at a little bit of a diagonal, and it's maybe about 1/2 of an inch long. It's not maybe 1/2 of an inch to an inch. It's not long at all. I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom. So I'm going to give myself this diagonal line, and I can make this as tall as this section in through here, so I can bring this up just a little bit like that and color this in. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect here to here with a similar arcing line like that. So I just reloaded my brush, and I'm going to connect here to here with a similar arcing line. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We've got lots of details to go, so we can hide imperfections with future painting steps. Just something along, you know, this shape will work. I need to put a roof on my gondola, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take it from this corner in through here, bring it across like this, And then when I'm just shy of this marker in through here, I can give myself a little diagonal. So that just makes this top work as the correct shape. We'll be putting details on it in a little bit, but that just gives you the correct shape for the top. Now what I'm going to do is I've got to connect my car to my cable. So what I was finding when I was looking at these type of structures is they have a big kind of metal bar that comes out the top or connects to the top of the car, and then like it has a curved line. Not all of them, but the ones that the one that I'm modeling mine after. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from this left-hand corner of the car all the way up to the cable line. I'm going to draw myself a vertical line, and right about when it's about an inch away from my car in through here, I'm going to curve it to the right hand side. So something like that, and then curve it, and then just bring it over the top of the car like that in a horizontal way. So something like this. And it can be pretty wide of a line because you need something that's pretty sturdy and heavy to hold this type of mechanism up in the air. So I'm again just bringing this up a little bit higher than the cable itself, and then I'm just pushing my brush kind of wide so I have a good structure in through there. And then you can connect this part to the cable any way you want. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to give a couple of diagonal lines that will kind of hook it onto the cable itself. Maybe another piece kind of coming in through here. And again, we'll be putting some fun other details on it. Maybe another little thing like that. Maybe there's a handle of sorts in through there. I need to connect here to the car itself. So I'm just going to put a couple of maybe triangular type of brackets or something in through here and here. And then you can fiddle with it all you want. We're going to use this same small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry this small brush, if I can ever finish this little section, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our gondola and the cable. I'm going to use my small brush. The colors I'm going to use are white, red, blue, black, and probably some gray as well. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be adding a highlight to my cable, and then I'm going to be adding a whole bunch of colors and detail to my gondola so it looks three-dimensional and it looks like it's got some reflective glass on it. So I'm going to start with my cable. I just am loading my brush with white paint. I'm going to put a white line on the top side of my cable because my light source is over there. So to me, that's the side that my highlight would naturally be on. So I'm just picking up white paint and going right along the top side of my cable. You could, of course, use, use a shadow on your cable as well. You could, make your cable a different color if you wanted to. But know that I'm going for kind of just a shiny, metallic type of maybe silvery type of cable that is, or steel cable. Steel cable, that sounds more sturdy than a metallic cable. A steel cable that will really hold these people up. And so I'm just going for some shine on mine. My shine doesn't have to be smooth the whole way. It could even look sparkly if you wanted to have like a little starburst sparkle on that shiny piece as well. So that looks good for me. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to put the red color on my cable car. So I'm loading my brush with red paint. I am going to be putting red on top of my gray color. I used the gray as a base because my red is transparent or translucent, which means you can see through it. So by using that gray as the base, it provided me with a solid color or a light base underneath my red, which is going to allow my red to be even brighter than it would be if I was to paint it on top of that dark base. because my red is transparent. So I'm using it right now to, I used that gray as my base for these colored parts. I want my car to look like we can see into it, see into the glass. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to put a red brace like this on the inside of it as well. I did not do the base coat with gray on the one that's going to be inside because I'm going for an optical illusion here, and I want my glass of my gondola to look like it's distorting the color of the red. So I'm going to put the corner, this corner, I need another one over here on the other side, on the inside of my ride. So I'm going to do a curved line that's similar to this on the inside, and because I don't have the gray behind it, this line that I'm putting right now, when it dries, will look darker than these three that I just did that are on the outside. So it's just an optical illusion that I wanted to create, so that's how I did that. While my red is drying, I'm going to go ahead and do some other details on my car. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. Oh, wait, I want one more red line. Hold on. Putting red paint back on my brush. I want a red detail up at the top here. We want some red up here too. So I'm just putting some more up here, just a little line to give me a little bit of detail of this red color as my framework for my ride. And then once I've got that, now I'm going to wash and dry my brush and put some other details. I'll work on this top structure part, so I need a highlight and a shadow. My light source is over there, so I'm going to put my highlights on the right side of these objects, and my shadows on the left. I'm going to start with a little bit of black paint, give me some shadows. So again, I'm just imagining this however I want. So I've got something that wraps around my cable in through there. I've got another little piece that wraps around that cable. Maybe this little structure has a shadow underneath it. I've got this piece in through here. I've got this little piece in through here. Anything that I want you to kind of see as on our side, I'll put straight across that middle bar. Again, just using black paint right now. If I have any area that I feel needs to blend in with my gray, I could certainly pick up my gray, or if I wanted a smoother line, I just put a little bit of moisture on my brush to allow me to get that. I'm picking up a tiny bit of gray paint right now just to get this to blend just a little bit more to feed my painterly eye. There we go. That gives me a little bit smoother transition down and through there. Now I'm going to put a couple of shadows on these little guys in through here. So I'm going to put a shadow right at the bottom of this piece, let it come out over on this side like that. I'm going to put shadow here, here, maybe here. These are the back side of this, the front side's over there. And I think I'm going to put a couple of extra little pieces up maybe here and here. I'll put some highlights that'll make some sense in a minute. I'm going to put I was seeing these bumper things on the back of these gondolas. I think in case I'm going to call them bumpers in case they accidentally bump into another car. So we're going to put those on here too, because we don't want our gondola riders to have any accidents. So we're just going to put this almost like a black bumper piece of sorts. I'm not certain that's exactly what they are, but that's what they looked like to me. I've ridden on a couple of really cool gondolas in my day, but I did not study them as much as I had studied when I was getting prepared for this painting. So there was some interesting things that I didn't know were part of the gondolas, and bumpers was one of them, but it makes sense to me. So now that I've got a whole bunch of fun pieces in through here, what I'm going to do, I'm thinking that that's pretty good. I'm going to work on the glass in a minute, but that's looking pretty good. I'm going to wash and dry my brush, put some highlights on these metal pieces. So washing and dry my brush, picking up some white paint, and I'm going to do conversely, I'm going to put a highlight on the right side of all these pieces, or the top, the right side, wherever I want there to appear to be the light hitting it from over there. I'm just going to put a little white stripe And of course, if you wanted this white to look like it's on, you know, some dirty metal or something like that, you could certainly incorporate a little bit of brown in this color if you wanted to, but I'm going for it's nice and clean and bright white, and so I'm going to go for a real shininess to it, but you could certainly illuminate yours whatever way you want. Well, that's going to grow, so we'll make this one grow too. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my gray because I see that there's some unfinished spots back on this back side, so just to make sure that I have everything colored in the way that I want, I picked up a little bit of my gray. Now I'm picking back up a little bit of my white just to give myself a couple little details on this right hand side with these little pieces of black that I just put in through here, so you can really have fun with putting any kind of detail you want. Just putting a little bit of a highlight around these bumpers so they look like they're being illuminated. Maybe they're like a plastic or a rubbery type of material. So that's looking pretty good to me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to I want to put the glass in my windows, so I'm washing and drying my brush. I'm going to pick a blue paint. So this is ultramarine blue. It's going to be transparent, and I'm going to rub it on my glass. So what this is going to do is it's going to put almost like a tinted layer on my glass. And this is going to allow for some really cool reflective details that I want to put on here. Again, think of it like you're just tinting the glass. So whatever you had behind there for your landscape, this is almost telling the viewer that that this glass is reflecting the sky. We're going to put highlights and a little bit more information in it in a minute, but this is going to be my start to it. While it's drying, I'm going to put a couple little highlights and details on the red section, and then we'll come back and finish up this tinted window section. So this is looking pretty good to me. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to wash and dry my brush, put a little detail on my red areas. So wash and dry my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my gray. I think I want a couple little details underneath here. So this is just gray, and just some little details at the bottom of the gondola so it doesn't smash into the ground when it reaches its destination. Maybe these are the little feet at the bottom of it or something. That works out well. Now I'm going to put maybe a little handle or sorts over in through here. I'm going to now pick up a little bit of red and white on my brush, give myself a little tiny highlight on the part that I feel sticks out the most, maybe a little bit of red and white in through here, because this is the side that is facing the light source, so it would make sense to me that this side over here is illuminated a little bit more. And then on this back side, conversely, I can pick up red with a teeny tiny bit of black or brown. So I'm going to put a little dark area on this back side so it makes this back side of the gondola look like it is on the back side. So I can put these little red and black details all along this back side, showing that there is in fact maybe shadow back on this back side. And then I would just fiddle with any of those little details as much as I want to. And once I've got that done, I'm going to move on into my glass. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush again, and I want to add the illusion of stuff inside my gondola and outside the windows. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of black paint and give myself a little bit of almost as if there's a bench or something inside my gondola. So this is black paint, and I'm just pulling it across the this back side. This could be a seat. It could be, that's what I'm imagining it to be, just a little seat that's within my gondola. And I'm making it kind of thin so it dries fast. I'm going to put maybe a little shadow of sorts on the side of this window in through here. So this is just a little bit of black paint on my brush. I'm putting these shadows where maybe the doors would open, or maybe along the side of where the structure is, and again the light source is over there, so I would have, you know, little shadows over on here, maybe a little shadow underneath this window in through here. And then once I've got that on there, that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to be putting blue and white Blue and white is going to be my highlight color for my reflection in my window. So very little bit of paint on my brush. I'm going to put a nice bright kind of area in through here, which is going to look like a reflection of my surrounding landscape. So a little blue and white in through there, maybe even a streak across this back in maybe a little bit of a curved way in order to make it look like that window is kind of reflecting the stuff around it. Maybe you even streak in a little bit on top of that black area that you just put in there. So a little bit of blue and white can give me a little kind of almost reflection in this glass on top of what that seat was, and you can really have fun with that. You could even take a little bit extra white paint and put maybe a little sparkle in this glass in through here, and then I would again just kind of rest on it for a minute, let it dry, and if you feel that you want any additional pops of brightness or shadows or details, feel free to add them on there. I give you the base structure, and then as you build your own, if you want to do other things to it, like I want a little bit more detail back here, so I picked up black and gray, you just keep adding and subtracting as much as it makes your painterly eye happy. And then we're going to be using our large brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put your small brush away, take out your large brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our trees. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors I'm going to use are black, blue, gray, and white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing a couple of little shadows behind these 3 trees, maybe a little shadow from this one on the hill with black, blue, and maybe some gray. And then I'm going to be adding snow onto all of my trees. I will be using gray and blue on the left side of the trees, which is the shadowed side of the trees, and white on the highlighted side of the trees, which is where the light source is. The biggest trick here that I can tell you is never use a lot of paint on your brush. So I'm going to be using very little bit of paint, just kind of putting these shadows on, and then I'm just going to be really gently tapping my brush in order to give me the effect of snow. The snow, when it's in a forest like this, will typically be brighter and thicker at the top of those trees, especially after a nice fresh snowstorm. So I'm going to have more snow at the top of these trees, and as it kind of comes down into the base of those trees, I won't have as much. So I'm not going to use a lot of paint. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my shadows first, and I'm going to be using very teeny tiny bit of black paint on my brush, like tiny bit on my tip of my paintbrush, and I'm just going to wipe it off. So this way what I can do is I can control what I'm doing. My light source is over there. I just want a little tiny bit of a shadow maybe coming behind this tree in through here, maybe a little bit behind this one in through here. Because I have very little bit of paint on my brush, I can just kind of rub it into the ground. On this one I wanted to maybe kind of look like it's going up the hill. So if I give it an upward kind of trajectory, that will tell that story. And once I've got that on there, I don't want it to just look like I painted that shadow on there. I want it to look like it is intermingled with the snow. So I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of gray and blue on my brush. Just again, an itty bitty bit, tap it off on my paper towel. I didn't wash my brush, so I might end up having a little bit of that black on there. I probably need just a little bit more so we can see what I'm doing, and I'm just going to kind of tap it on top of my shadow so that way I have a little bit of darker snow in essence on top of that shadow that I just did, which is going to make it look nice and natural and make it kind of blend into the surrounding. And if you needed to, you could certainly enhance any of the snow at the bottom of those trees. So if you wanted to, you could also pick up a tiny bit of white just to make sure, just tap it in at the bottom of that tree to make sure that that front side of the tree is as bright as you want it to be. So this is just a little bit of white on my brush, and to make sure that it all kind of looks like it belongs together. I think I even want a little bit kind of in through here just to make all of this look like it is talking well together. So something like that works out just fine for me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up gray and blue on my brush at the same time. And I just kind of put it at the tip of my brush. I'm going to be tapping snow on the left sides of the trees. So a little tiny bit on the tip of my brush. I even keep just wiping it off on my paper towel. I'm going to do my back row of trees first, and then I'll hit my front row. So I'm going to take it and just, I think I want a little bit more gray and blue. I just put it on that first one and was like, oh, that was a little bit too bright. So I'm dulling it down with a little bit more blue and less paint on my brush, and then just kind of tapping it down this left-hand side. Again, I feel like I have too much paint on my brush, so I'm going to give my brush a good squeeze in my paper towel. I don't want a lot. I want it to be very, very subtle. There we go. That's looking better to me. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just kind of going down the left-hand side of some of these back trees. I don't need to do all of them, and when I want one to look like it's in front of the other, what I'll do is I'll bring that line down just a little bit further. Just really gently tapping these back trees, a little bit on this left-hand side. And I've got a couple of front trees in through here, so I'll tackle those in a minute, but just trying to give the illusion back in through here. I just picked up a little bit more blue paint so I can get just a little bit more of that depth in there. The blue is going to help, again, make it look a little bit more in the shadows on that side of the tree itself, and hardly any paint right now, just itty bitty bit. That works out for me. I'm going to hit the left side of these front trees. Again, more blue than gray is going on my brush, but I do have both colors on my brush. And then as I go down this left-hand side, I'm just kind of tapping it in. And this one's sitting in front of that one, so I can bring this down a little bit further. It doesn't just have to go down that exactly 50% of the left-hand side of the tree. You can certainly intermingle it and put it, you know, crossing over the center of the tree as well. That's going to be your call. But what I do find is that if you can cross it over a little bit and make the left side kind of intermingle somewhere in the middle, that's going to make it look a little bit more realistic. I think I want a little bit more on this guy in through here. And again, I'm just tapping it so I don't have too much, but I have enough where you can really see that there's some snow on there. And again, going to do the same thing with this guy in through here, keeping that triangular type of shape. I'm going to go ahead and hit this one in through here. I'm bringing this one in front of my cable, and I'm using the side of my brush so that way I'm not dotting it straight in. I'm really just kind of illuminating the snow with the angle, the side angle of my brush, maybe a little bit more. I'm digging this blue in here, so I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit more in these guys in through here. Maybe we'll put another front tree kind of right in through here. And now I'm going to, without washing my brush, I'm just going to wipe my brush off on my paper towel. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of white paint. So a little bit of white on my dirty brush. And this is, again, hardly any. I'm just going to tap it off on my paper towel. I'm going to start to add little bits on the right-hand side of the tips of some of these trees. So again, it doesn't just have to be on the right-hand side, but just giving that initial thought that it, you know, you want it on the right, but it doesn't have to be just on the right. You can pull it over a little bit to the left. You could use a smaller brush too. If you're going through this and you're like, whoa, this brush is just too large for me to handle on these back trees, then by all means take out a smaller brush. You can certainly, you know, have fun with whatever brush works for you as you're going through this process, but I'm just kind of tapping it down those right-hand sides, and again, going to pick up a little bit more white paint as I'm going to do these front ones. And again, going down the right-hand side and allowing myself to intermingle those brighter colors with, you know, the center area of the tree. If you want it to be even brighter, I just picked up a teeny tiny bit more white paint, and that'll give me just bright tippy tips on that right-hand side. That's what's going to tell the viewer the light is definitely over there. The brightness on this right-hand side of some of these trees is what's going to explain the intensity of that light source. And especially since you have it against some really dark colors, that helps to sell this story of how bright the snow is, of how thick the snow is, of how, you know, sunshiny that day is. And you can see I'm slowing down. I don't want to make these really invasive, but I don't want to overpaint it. So sometimes I just have to slow down in order to do things deliberately. And, you know, I like to have fun and I like to be carefree when I'm painting, but when there's certain things that I know I'm trying to accomplish, and I know if I don't pay attention and don't slow down, I might overdo it, then I definitely slow down. Like this snow on the trees, I know I don't have much far to go. I know I wanted to say a specific thing, so I'm just slowing down so I don't overpaint it. And then maybe I'll put a couple of bright tips on these little guys back in through here. So just a teeny tiny bit on my brush will certainly help me out. And then again, I'm going to let it dry. And if there's any little fiddles that I want to do, like just adding a little pop on a couple of these trees of bright, bright white, and then we have one little step left to go, and it's going to be with that small brush. So once you've got your beautiful trees done, you can put this large brush away, take out your small brush, if you can stop, and get ready for the next step. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the bottom left or the bottom right. I'm going to go bottom right on this one, small brush. I'm going to be using white paint to sign my name, which is going to look very subtle on top of that snow. You can, of course, sign yours with your first name or the date or a symbol. I use my initials, but you can use whatever you want as your identifying mark because it's your painting and you get to sign it however you would like. And that is going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a really cool winter scene, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.